Even though I've been working almost exclusively digital for, I don't know, forever now, I still love to make tangible things that you can touch and interact with my art. One of those things that I've loved to make the most is zines. Zines are something that I first discovered when I was a teenager. They were like weird punk rock zines or, I don't know, indie comics. And I think at the time when I saw one of these things, it just sort of felt, I don't know, amazing to me that someone just made it and anyone could just make whatever they want. Feels kind of like an obvious thing now, but at the time, you know, I was a dumb teenager and I was like, whoa, you can just make stuff? You can just make whatever you want? And it just, I don't know, it felt like it opened a lot of doors to me. Some of you may be sitting there thinking, what in the heck of the world is a zine? In general, a zine is basically just any self-published little booklet. Could be whatever. There's infinite things you can make zines about. And there's infinite ways you can make a zine. Maybe not infinite, but there's a ton of different ways. And one of my favorite ways to make a zine is the one sheet method. I think I like it so much because it feels a little bit like magic. You're taking one sheet of paper and turning it into an 8-page book. It's crazy, right? Doesn't make any sense. You want me to show you how to do it? Okay, I'll show you. So this right here, a little zine I made with my good pal Josh. I'll put his website in the description. This zine really kind of hones in on the idea that you can make a zine about whatever. This is a bunch of fake advertisements for fake products. And these are some pretty serious products. Like this is a mechanical robot friend. The Holy Bible for teens, but this says translated such that every word spoken by Jesus has been replaced with Smash Mouth's lyrics to All-Star. Anyway, this 8-page zine is made up of one sheet of paper. I just so happen to have everything over here to demonstrate the process. This is how this was printed. Josh and I had these Rezo printed, which I love. Love the texture, I love the quality, and let's make this into a zine. So what you're gonna do is fold it in half. I'm gonna go ahead and crease this to get a nice clean fold there. And now I'm going to fold it in half the other way. Like that. And now I'm going to fold in the sides to the middle. And then what I like to do is go and fold them the opposite way. Just feel like it helps make it a little bit more foldable. Unless like you're fighting it when you fold it into the actual book. So go like that. And then maybe we'll do one more this way. Now, in addition to the folding, we need to make one cut. And that cut is just along the center line from here to here. So from this page to this page. Straight line, and again, I'm cutting from those first 2 pages down to the end of that second page there. All right, now this is where the magic comes into play. So what you're gonna do is pinch these middle pages like this. You got that? And then we're gonna boop, like this. We're gonna find the front cover, and we are just going to do an extra little foldy here just to flatten it out a little bit. And would you look at that? We've got a little booklet here. Now, one thing you could do if you wanted to maintain its bookness and not make it openable, you could just throw a little staple in the middle. Another fun thing you could do, which we did not do here due to trying to keep the cost down, is you could maybe use the back side, print like a big poster. I bet you want to make a zine right now too, don't you? Anyway, I'm ready to make a new zine. Did I mention that already? I've been overthinking it for way too long now, trying to come up with the perfect idea. And then I realized, you know what? What perfect doesn't matter. The whole point of this is they're DIY, you know, and what drew me to them originally was the weirdness, the grittiness, the randomness. I love that. So I decided this zine is just gonna feature weird SpongeBob puns. I've been drawing these for a while, they make me laugh. So I figured I'll rework some of the older ones and then make some new drawings to fill out the zine, make some fun little graphics, little cover page.
Things are gonna get crazy.
That's what we're gonna do. And I think because I want to lean into that DIY aesthetic, I wanted to get them Reezer printed like the one Josh and I did, but I've been having trouble finding a place to do Reezer printing these days anyway. So my idea is that I'm going to recreate these SpongeBob drawings that I did, make them a little bit better, a little bit cooler, and then along with the new ones, but I'm gonna do them using my new Retro Supply Co. brush texture pack and mainly lean on the Reezer brushes. And I'm gonna do all of the drawings for the zine in the same 3-color palette, where I'll be layering those colors to make additional colors, just like I would be if I was actually Reezer printing them. But I'm going to print the colors separately, just like a Reezo, but I'm gonna do it on my Epson inkjet printer. Now I know that is not Reezer printing, but I think it could have a cool effect because inkjet printers don't print white, so the colors will be naturally less opaque. They use the white of the paper to make that white. So I'm thinking if I print the colors separately, the layering effect will probably work, I think. And the Reezer brushes will help with that texture. So I think it'll look pretty good. And the Epson print quality is, outstanding. It's a high-end inkjet printer. It's got archival ink. It prints great. So I think the texture will hold up really well. And the layering, I think it'll work. I don't know for sure. You're gonna have to come on this journey with me and see. It could fail. If it fails, we'll have to figure out something else. I have one other idea. I am going to also print the line work for the cover. Just the cover, because the thing I'm going to use to print it can only print a small size, but it's the perfect size for this zine cover. So I'm going to inkjet the colors layered, and then I'm going to put line work on top of it using my print Gocco. Do you know what a print Gocco is? Hold on. Did you hear me get so excited that my voice cracked? So this is a print Gocco. Now these have been discontinued for a very long time, and I used to print with this often. Early on in my career, I had like an Etsy shop and I used to do these little mini prints with this. It's sort of like a screen printer, but it uses these little screens and it uses flash bulbs to expose them, and you need like a photocopy or a laser print, and then it'll do that. And I think the reason it got discontinued is because I think there's cancer in these flash bulbs. But anyway, I've been hoarding this stuff for a very long time, and I never use it anymore because I know that this is it. So I'm like, every time I make something, I'm like, well, it's gotta be good because this might be the end of it. And the other thing is, these flash bulbs sometimes don't work. So it's like, it looks like I have 4 boxes of them, but you can only expose once with bulbs, and it takes 2 bulbs to expose something, 2 cancer bulbs. So these are old, they may not go off. And if they don't go off, I could wreck the screen, run out of bulbs. Anyway, that's my plan. I don't even know if I have the proper Gocco ink for this, because there's like special inks. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong here. Before we do any of the printing stuff, we need to like actually make the zine. And the first thing that I do when I'm making a zine like this is I make a little mock-up. This will allow me to like figure out the placement and like where the covers are, like the cover, the back cover, and like what pages are next to each other, and like what needs to be upside down because you remember it's all folded and got that cut in the middle. So to make a mock-up, I just grab just like a random piece of paper. So we got just a piece of regular computer paper here, and we're just gonna do that same process. We're just gonna fold it a bunch of times, fold it in half long ways, fold it in half short ways, and then fold it again on the long side, the horizontal side. And it doesn't have to be perfect because again, it's just a mock-up. So you're gonna be left with this eight little rectangles. I'll fold it again this way so you can see what I'm talking about. The light, there we go. Now you can see. Okay, and now I'll just quickly cut that middle part. Pinch like this. And then fold it. See, when you don't do a very good job for the mock-up, it gets a little sloppy, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's just a mock-up. You gotta wrestle with it sometimes. This is why I did the extra fold in the other one. Okay. So we will like this. And then we just get a pen or a pencil or whatever you want. And then I just quickly write what things are. So cover. And then we could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, back cover. And now open it up. And you'll see we have our layout here, and you'll notice that 3, 4, 5, 6 are upside down on the top. So that is helpful when we're laying this out so we print it properly. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to head over to my computer and make a template to use for this. So I'll see you over there. All right, I'm at my computer. I'm in Adobe Illustrator. You could do this in a different app. You could do it in Photoshop, InDesign, non-Adobe apps. You just need a layout software that, you can put the size of your document into. So my printer will print up to 13 by 19. You may be thinking, oh man, we gotta do math. 13 seems like a hard number to do math with. 19 does too. Well, we're not gonna do any math. What I'm gonna do is just go ahead and grab the rectangle shape tool, and I'm just gonna willy-nilly make a rectangle. And then I'm going to hold down Option and Shift and drag it over right next to the first one. And then I'm gonna do Command D. I don't know what it is on a Windows computer, but it's step and repeat. You could keep doing the drag thing if you want. I'm gonna do that twice. So now we have 4 rectangles. Now I'm gonna drag and select all of these. I'm gonna hold Option and Shift, move that down, and now we've got all 8 panels. I'm gonna click and drag, select all of these, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and group them. And what we can do now, let's get this transform box out of my face, is just stretch this out until it fits your document size. So you could do this for whatever document size you're working with, because you're just stretching it to the edges, and if the grid fits whatever proportion, whatever page you're doing, it's gonna work because you're folding it in halves and half and half. And as a result of that flexibility, I'm actually gonna make this template available in the description. So I don't know why I grouped this. I want to ungroup it. That was silly. And I'm gonna turn off the fill for this. So we got that. Now if we click on one of these, we will see up at the top. Oh, here we go. So now what we can do is if we click on it like this, we did like a thing accidentally. I did an isolation. I did an isolation move. I don't know what that is. Okay, so you'll see if we click on it and we hit the transform thing, you'll see the size here. So each page of our zine is gonna be 4.75 by 6.5. So that is helpful information to have. Now, what I like to do is to give myself a little bit of wiggle room in between the pages, because when you're folding and folding again, it sort of starts to creep in on your space a little bit. So you don't want things right up to the edge, because on some of those pages it's going to be a little less perfect, and then it'll sort of wrap onto the other side if you have something that goes all the way. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna eyeball it, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm going to copy this little rectangle, the first one here, and I'm going to go to Edit, Paste in Place, and then I'm gonna hold Option and Shift and scale that down to the center. And actually, you'll see the size comes up. So if we look, it's 4.75. So I'm thinking I just want to take like a 1/4 inch off. So we could go down to 4.5 in the height. And now we can come in on the sides. So we'll go down to 4.5. So we took a 1/4 inch off, and now we've got this, we've got this clean border, and that is gonna be helpful for us to use. So now when I go and make my individual pages, because I'm gonna draw them individually, I will use this rectangle size, which is 4.5 by 6.25. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is get rid of these other ones that don't have the inner thing, because it'll be easier for me to keep them together. So I'm gonna do the same thing we did before, but with this little center margin area. So I'm gonna do Command D, and then I'm going to Shift and Option and drag these down. And there we go. So now I'm gonna use this to make the template. You could leave it just like this and that would be fine, but because I told you I was going to make this a free download, I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. I'm gonna put a dashed line where you're supposed to cut. I'm gonna number the pages so that you know where they go, but this would be enough to get you by if you want to do it yourself. Okay, I'm gonna finish this up, and then I'm gonna meet you at my iPad to start working on these SpongeBobs in a minute. All right, before I bring these all into the layout, I'm just gonna walk you through the lineup here for each individual page. First up, we've got GrungeBob. This is a SpongeBob modeled after Kurt Cobain of Nirvana. My favorite part about this is the Bikini Bottom Kill shirt. Kurt Cobain was a big fan of the punk band Bikini Kill, and in many pictures he's wearing a Bikini Kill shirt, and I was like, Bikini Bottom Kill. That's perfect. Little details like that, favorite thing to do. And you know, the clothes, had a lot of fun making this plaid pattern and layering the colors using some of the patterns from my Retro Supply Co. pack. I'm sorry I keep talking about it, but listen, that's how I did it. And the sweater, I think this turned out pretty good. And next up is SpongeBob Digital. This is the finished result. There it is. We've taken this for the children. Did I already make that joke? This one is a jumble of a few. I couldn't pick one of them, and compositionally, I wanted to include the lower one. This is SpongeSlob Dirty Pants. And I thought that the composition of that one worked well horizontally. So I decided to put in some other ones that I felt like weren't full page candidates, but you know, added a little bit. We've got SpongeBob's Burgers and SpongeBob. Pretty straightforward stuff we're working with here. This is sponge corn on the cob? This is Sponge Rob Halford of Judas Pineapple. Loved making the Judas Pineapple logo based on the original Judas Priest logo. I mean, I don't like to toot my own horn, but toot. Next up is another SpongeRob. This is SpongeRob Zombie from the White Zombie era. I really liked how that purple color for the background came together. Just looks pretty gritty. I'm excited to see how this prints when we try to do these colors one at a time. Hopefully they layer properly. I laughed out loud several times while doing this one. And then this is what I did for the cover. Just instead of doing a SpongeBob pun, I just wanted to make something that was just more of a design. So I just did some random shapes that just looked nice compositionally, and then I drew SpongeBob faces on them. With the cover I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna try to print the black using my print Gocco def machine. So that should be fun. And then the back cover here, I wasn't sure what to do at first. I knew I wanted to, put my website on there because this is my zine. A little link. And then put some more jokes in there. Made a farting starfish thing. I redid the crab shack. Why am I blocking on the name of that? Krabby Shack? Krabby Patty Shack? And then also this fish character, which you might recognize because I did a video where I redrew X-Men character as if they were SpongeBob characters, and I used this character as the basis for Gambit. That sounds interesting. You should watch that video after this. A quote from him is, "Oh brother, this guy stinks." And I just changed guy to zine, and he's holding this actual zine. That's pretty meta there. And then a SpongeBob skull, because I can't do anything without putting a skull in there. I'm gonna show you how I brought this all into Photoshop, and then we will try to print this and make it happen. Okay, so I got the template here. I went and finished this up. As you can see here, I have the pages labeled. I did the extra wiggle room area, like a safe margin to use as a guide to keep it from getting too close to the edges when you're folding it. That part inside the yellow is what I use for my sizes when I set these up in Procreate. One quick note that may be helpful for some of you is that the print size of these individual pages is I think it's 4 4.25 by 6.5, something like that. I didn't just do 4.25 by 3.5 at 300 DPI, even though that's all that would be required, because that wouldn't be a big enough, there wouldn't be enough pixels for me to have a good drawing experience. So I actually made these files, I think I did 800 at DPI. So that way, when I was drawing, it was closer to the size that I like to work at, which is, between 4,000 to 6,000 pixels. I think anything below that, especially when I'm doing stuff with texture, I don't have enough control and I don't like it. So even though 100% scale at 300 DPI is what you need for printing, if it's a small thing, it's not enough pixels to have the best drawing experience. So because I set up my Procreate files like that, when I made this file in Photoshop to combine them all into, I made it 13 by 19, but I set it at 800 DPI. That way, when I dragged the PSDs of the individuals in, I didn't have to resize, they were already the right size. And then I could afterwards make it back to 300 if I wanted to, but if you're not worried about file size or anything like that, there's no harm in keeping it at that really high resolution. You can always make it smaller, can't make it bigger. So I brought them all in as little folders. So each drawing had a blue layer, a yellow layer, and red layer, and I just grouped them and then dragged that group into this document. And then I made a folder for each of the colors, the red, the blue, and the yellow. And then I grouped them together like this. And if we turn off the template, we have what we will use to print. So you'll see we got the yellow, and then we can turn on the blue, and then we turn on the red, and this is the results. So the plan is to print this yellow, run it through, and then take that piece of paper out, put it back in, and then run the blue on top of it. Now I mentioned that inkjet printers don't use white, so the colors will not be as opaque. But to help out a little bit, I think I'm probably gonna, on the blue, maybe bring the opacity down just a tiny bit, maybe to 95. I don't know if this is necessary, but I think it might help. I'm not worried about the red at all, because if you've ever painted with red, you'll know that red does not have good coverage. So I think that'll be fine showing through the other colors. But I'm excited to see how this turns out. So I'm just gonna make sure the settings are the same. I'm gonna go into the printer settings here and make sure that I specify the paper size. So I'm using Super B A3, which is 13 by 19. The reason I'm specifying this is because I want to take out any, anything the printer's doing on its own, which may offset how it prints. I mean, there's a chance that it's not as accurate as I think, and then I print through the second one and it's way off. That could happen. But to minimize that as much as possible, I'm going to specify the size, and that way I can make sure that this is printing at 100% scale. There's no scaling whatsoever. And you just want to make sure all of that stuff is turned off, because it could sort of shift if it's doing it on its own. And then I'm also going to choose specifically where it's taking the paper from, meaning like the tray underneath or the rear tray. I'm running it through the rear so it stays the same. And I'm specifying the media type. I'm using photo matte paper, and then quality best. So if I keep these settings the same, and then I just switch the layers on and off, I think it might be okay. I'm gonna send this to print. I'll meet you over at the printer and we can experience this together. All right, we're over here at the print zone. We got the trusty Epson XP 15000, and this is the paper we're gonna be printing on. This is Epson presentation paper matte. This is high quality, great paper. I always have used Epson stuff. I love the Epson printers, Epson paper, just my go-to. So when you're using inkjet paper, unless it's double-sided, you want to make sure you're putting the coated side usually face up, whatever side the printer prints on. And it's a little bit hard to tell, but if you fold it in half, you'll be able to see that one side is like a little off-white or something, a little bit. You can tell the covered side is just a little bit more white. You can tell it's got a little bit of a little something to it. Inkjet paper is important when you're printing on inkjet to get the best quality, because it's designed for the ink to sit on top of it, whereas regular paper, like copy paper for like a laser printer that is designed for toner, the ink will just seep into it and it'll get blurry and not saturated. It'll just look bad. So you need inkjet paper to get good results from a good inkjet printer. So I'm just gonna load this in the back like so. And I'm gonna go send the yellow to print, and I will check back in with you in a minute. Any second. It's happening. We're printing the yellow. This is probably gonna take a while.
One eternity later.
All right, so yellow printed good. I'm popping it back in just like it went in before. And now I'm gonna send the blue.
A few moments later.
All right, we did it. It printed out. I'm really happy with the results. I don't know if you can see from this angle, but I think this turned out super rad. I love the way the colors overlapped with each other. It did make me realize that this is gonna be a little bit more time intensive, and I'm not gonna be able to do the Gocco depth print cover today because I realized I gotta print those all at once or the ink will dry. And to do that, I gotta make a whole batch of these, which requires printing out all 4 colors a whole bunch of times. So there's gonna be another video where I attempt to do the cover. I think I need to assemble one of these now just so that we can make sure it all works and just see it all as a almost finished piece without the cover line work. So let's fold it up. I really can't get over how this purple on the Rob Zombie thing printed out really well. I'm already noticing that the space around the top of that border is like too much. So maybe it's good that I did a test run. I could tweak it a little bit before I print all of them. It's good to find out these things ahead of time. So I like to unfold and then fold it back when I'm doing these other folds because I find that you can get a cleaner fold and you're not like pushing the fold out slightly because it's caught in the other fold. I don't know if that's coherent or makes sense, but I get a more accurate fold if I'm not folding on fold. Folding on folds. Ben folds 5. Remember Ben folds 5? Is that still a thing? Yeah, I think this, something happened wherein this has a really large border at the bottom and the sides and it's not centered in this space like I'd like it to be. So this is why it's good to do some test runs before you print things. I'm also glad I didn't send this off to be like Rezo printed or something, or printed all of these before I did the cover, because now we can make some adjustments. All right, so I'm just gonna quickly do one back on itself. And now we can do that cut along the middle. It's always nice to put a fresh X-Acto blade on, so you get a nice clean cut right to the edge. And now we pinch. This will also help us figure out if we did the page order right. I feel like I always involve you and say we, like if I make a mistake, it's your fault too. Smooth this out before we do the final fold over. Cover down like this. Nice little crease. This paper is a pretty good weight for this kind of thing. If you go too heavy, like if you were doing that thing where you print on the inside and you get like double coated inkjet printer, it could get a little thick, a little hard to handle. Okay, so this is the cover without the line work. And we open it up and we are met with SpongeRob Zombie, which, if you look at the spacing, it's not that great in there. So I'm gonna shift this over in my file so that it's nice and centered within that space before I do the rest. And then I'll go ahead and shift these over. It's probably a simple math issue that I did. I'll let you know if I figure it out. This Sponge Corn on the Cob, SpongeBob Digital, and SpongeRob Halford. So SpongeRob Halford fits nicely on the page. Could be shifted over a little bit, but SpongeBob Digital seems way off. And then we got the back cover. Back cover holds up pretty well. So I'm wondering if it's because of the folding and pushing. It seems way off. I'm gonna make some calculations, and if I need to adjust the template, I will put the corrected template in the description. So if you're watching this right after I posted it, the new one with the Gocco cover may not be out yet, but if you're watching this in the future, there's gonna be a link right here to me doing the final cover artwork on this, printing a bunch of them, and then they'll be available in my shop. If you're watching this like right on time and it's not in the future, then you should watch this other video. I think you'll really like it. Alright, thanks for going on this journey with me. Hopefully the Gocco printer doesn't murder me with its cancer goals. I could talk.